The wide world of sibilance in your records. Okay, so you've recorded your vocals using a pop filter. You've done all the things that they've told you on YouTube, but you still got a bunch of S's and T's and T's in your recordings. How do we fix that? What are some of the best de-essers out there on the market right now? How do you use de-essers in a chain, right? What are the tricks? How do we get rid of this problem without getting that that lispy kind of sound? Let's get into it. Mix series, de-essing. Let's go. All right, to start this mix series out, I want to make it very clear as a mix engineer, de-essing and doing de-essing wrong can absolutely ruin a record. What? What the fuck? So it's really important to pay attention to the de-essing, the microphone you're using on the vocalist, what kind of microphone is bringing out what sibilance, what plugins are bringing out sibilance, etc. But sometimes you like the sparkle of a plugin or a compressor or an EQ, but it'll also bring out the S's, right? What do you do in this case? So I'm going to get into this. I'm going to show you a little reference track that I'm working on, song I'm writing. And I will show you with the de-essers on. I'll show you what I'm doing with the de-essers. Why do I have 2 de-essers on this channel? So hopefully you're here for that. Let's make some records. Check it out.
I'm not the only one you want, but I'm the only one to stay. I'm not the only one at all.
Okay, just a little part here. It's just a vocal phrase on the pre-chorus of this this track I'm working on. So let's focus in on this, I'm not the only one, but I'm the one to stay. When I say stay here, on this phrase. And I'm going to play it back with the de-essers, and then I'm going to show you with and without, and I'm going to show you why I've chosen to do 2 de-essers, and why even sometimes I'll do 3 de-essers.
But I'm the only one to stay.
Now, de-essing also has to do with the T sounds, right? Something that a lot of people don't get right is they think that they should only be focusing on the S's. You know, stay, something, sibilance, you know, but really it's the T's as well, the T's, you know? So let's figure out what's going on here with this track. I'm going to turn off the de-essers I have on here, okay? And then let's listen to this without the de-essers.
But I'm the only one to stay.
Now that's obviously a pretty soft S, right? You're going to have rappers, you're going to have singers that have a lot harder S's, but I take S's very, very seriously, so I always want to smooth them out. And I always want them to be musical, and that's what I'm going to show you is how to use 2 de-essers in a row, okay? So I have this chain here with auto-tune and compression and some EQ, right? And I'm not actually boosting anything with the EQ. I'm actually taking out stuff with the EQ. Which is maybe something you are going to be boosting with an EQ, or maybe the compressors that you're putting on are going to add more high frequencies, high mid frequencies that are going to bring out those S's. So this is one of my favorite de-essers, and I think it's just a classic de-esser. I don't know why more people don't use it. I think they're just kind of like really obsessed with whatever's new and hot. But this de-esser from Waves is just the Waves de-esser, all right? It's a great de-esser. I sometimes use it in bandpass mode like this, or I'll use it in high shelf mode, or I guess it's low pass mode, right? So audio split or wide, you can choose. I usually am in split, which means you're splitting like that. Wide means you're like shelving, you're going wider with the frequencies. Then your threshold is going to show you all that stuff. I'm not going to explain de-essers, but I'm going to explain to you like what I'm doing with this de-esser, okay? Now, let's just watch this in, and we'll keep the second de-esser out and just see what it's doing here.
But I'm the only one to stay.
Okay, so it looks like it's doing about 3 to 5 dB of gain reduction, attenuation. And what I'm doing here and how I set my de-esser in the first place is you're going to want to listen to the side chain, and you can solo out your vocal. I always solo out my vocal when I'm de-essing anything sibilant that I'm paying attention to. Now, you should pay attention to 2 different areas with sibilance, right? That 4K to 6K area, and then that 8K to 10K area, okay? You're always going to find right around there that's where the sibilance is going to be. And some plugins, which I'll show you another plugin that has two different bands to take care of different bands of frequencies. So don't be afraid to use stacks of de-essers to get that lower de-essing and then that higher upper de-essing range as well. Okay, so here I have 5141 as the frequency, and I have it so it's basically just saying anything at 5141 and above, just duck it if it goes past the threshold. That's what the de-esser is doing. So let's hear this sidechain solo vocal just to hear the S and what's coming through. Okay, and you hear that pretty hard. It's stay, like it's hitting hard. So what I'm doing here is trying to keep it musical. This is a problem that I think a lot of people get into, and pay attention. This is a really important thing to understand. If you de-ess too much, you're going to lose the performance. It's going to sound weird, robotic, and you're going to get lispy th. You're going to get more of a TH sound rather than an S sound, which can confuse everybody listening. So do not worry so much about getting rid of everything that's S, okay? Just be careful, all right? This is what it sounds like if you de-ess too much.
But I'm the only one to stay.
Now you'll notice this de-esser won't even let me get into the TH sound and make it lispy. It just kind of just takes all the high end down. And that's probably because I have it on this high pass mode. If I turn it to the sidechain mode where it's doing band pass, let's see what it does.
But I'm the only one to stay.
Right? That just sounds unmusical. It's still not giving me the TH sound, but it sounds unmusical. It's like stay. It's like stay. It's like pumping. It's weird. So be really careful and really subtle. And that's why I use two de-essers, right? The first one is just going to catch the, a little bit of stuff, and it's going to kind of smooth out the stuff. It's kind of like using a multi-band compressor or a dynamic EQ, right? Finding the parts that are just poking out and just taming them down just a little bit, all right? So let's get back to our 3 to 5 dB of gain reduction, and then we'll move on to the next de-esser, and I'll show you what that's doing.
But I'm the only one to stay. Understay.
Okay, cool. Now let's open up this second one. Now, why do I have a second de-esser? This is a big thing in records and making records, is that you're going to add a de-esser, right? And then you're going to start adding other plugins after the de-esser. And because this is kind of a retro wave, synth wave kind of vibe, I wanted to throw some little alter boy on it and format shift it up a little bit, put drive on it, all that stuff, which is going to add more of that high mid, that energy back in the S's, okay? And then I have a CLA2A, and the LA2A is pretty known for bringing out that high mids, right? The stuff that's going to give you as well, it's going to give you that sibilance, right? So that's why I'm using these, because I want it to sound like a record, and I want it to sound a little bit brighter and a little bit more crispy and cut through the mix, but I do not want to bring those S's back out. And that's what happened when I added those plugins. So I turn on a second de-esser. And another thing is the second de-esser is going to help it. I hear this a lot in amateur record mixing as well, is that people don't de-ess before they send to a reverb. And then you get all this sibilance and these T's and this splash and this crazy high end in your reverbs, and it just kills the ears and it kills the vibe of the track. So there's two ways you can really combat this. De-ess before you hit a reverb, and I have this as an insert on the reverb, right? So it's actually on the track. You can de-ess before the insert of the reverb, or you can actually send it to a reverb and you could de-ess or use like Soothe or different plugins that are going to dynamically get rid of that high mid range before it gets to the reverb. Meaning you're going to send it to a bus that's going to have a de-esser on it, or even dipping out that high mid range with an EQ, and then it's going to have the reverb, right? So you can send to as much of that as you want. But be careful with bright reverbs. You get those S's and reverbs, it just ruins the vibe. All right, so here's my next de-esser, and I love this de-esser. I want to give that a shout out. It's one of my favorite de-essers I've ever used in my life, and I've used so many, and I'll show you another keep watching. I'm going to show you another one. And if you got this far so far, just hit the like button. Show some love, right? I'm not asking you to give me a bunch of money to show you this stuff. Just hit the like button and show some love. It helps a lot. I promise you. I want to get more people watching this and learning this stuff so we have better records out in the world. Fair enough? All right, so this de-esser is amazing. It comes in the slate bundle. It's by eiossis. It's incredibly transparent, or it can be incredibly not transparent. All right, and this there's a couple things to this de-esser that I really love. This smooth knob, if you turn it up, you're going to get smoother de-essing. If you turn it all the way down, you're going to get it to be dramatic. Kind of like hard knee, soft knee on a compressor, okay? So I like to put it up a little bit smoother. And then I also don't like to go 100% wet with this de-esser. Sometimes it can just be super audible. And I'll show you what that'll do when I get audible with it. And you can see here also I'm de-essing in that 5K range, like a 50, looks like around 6.5, 6.5K or so. Okay, so let's hear this one on.
But I'm the only one to stay.
And you'll notice it's only coming on when that S hits. Like, that's a really important part of setting a de-esser. If your de-esser is kicking on when there's no S's, it's just like, I'm doing vowels, you know, and you got this like, it's like de-essing. You're doing it wrong. You're setting your de-esser wrong. Okay, so let's start to really hit this thing a lot and see what it does. So I'm going to go 100% wet from 90%. I'm going to turn the smooth down, and I'm going to turn the amount up. Now just hear the artifacts with this.
But I'm the only one to stay.
Okay, so now we're starting to get into that they. It's getting into the TH sound. You got to be really careful with this. So I'm going to turn the sensitivity up so I can dramatically show you what that's doing. I'm just going to go crank it. And it gets they. I'm going to sound like I got a lisp.
But I'm the only one to stay.
So there you go. You can easily overdo compression, de-essing, right? De-essing is compression. That's really what it is. It's just, it's finding it's like a multiband compressor. It's finding a targeted specific range of frequencies that you're going to compress down. You're going to turn down when they hit. On this de-esser, the best way to do it is you can go sibilant listen, and you could just hear the sibilance like this. And that is a really, really good way of finding out, oh, okay, I'm hitting my sibilance and I'm hitting nothing else. I don't want to take brightness out of the vocal. I don't want to take that mid-range out of the vocal. I don't want to take the presence and the cut out of the vocal on the record. I just want to dip the S's, because the S's are going to cause so many problems in the long run. And a lot of people are screwing this up, so I figured I'd do this mix series for you guys to just show you, like, if you're going to add more processing, your first stage obviously is using a pop filter, recording the vocal right, but learning how to control your sibilance. If you are an artist, you should always be hanging the vowels out more, right? Learn how to control your sibilance. And then have the pop filter, and then choose the right microphone for your voice. Sometimes, you know, this microphone might bring out a lot more brightness in your voice, while other microphones could really get that range of your vocal that you want, like that mid-range, without bringing out all that sizzly, like 5.5K, 8.2K, etc. And sometimes you want that color and you want that frequency, so you'll use like a de-esser, and you might use 2 de-essers. And my last thing I'm going to show you is this third de-esser that I might use, right? And that third de-esser is usually going to be on like a vocal mix bus. So for example, if I bus this to a bus and I said, hey, this is going to be my vocal bus, right? Let's say Vox bus. And I'll do this a lot because I'm mixing vocals, and there's a lot of different vocals, and I want them all to tie together. And I want to be able to turn them up and down individually, etc. So here I can, you know, have a de-esser on here as well that's just catching overs. And let's, like, for this example, I'll show you another de-esser that I really like, that I highly recommend. And it's kind of like one of the forefront, you know, the frontiers of de-essing. And that is this SPL dual band de-esser. And this is in Plugin Alliance. I think you can get it on its own as well through SPL. But incredible. I just have a subscription to it. And you have what I was talking about earlier. You have the high band and you have the low band. Now, I don't know what these frequencies are set to. You can easily look that up in the manual. But I'm imagining that the low band is anywhere from 4,500, to 6K. And the high band is probably up in that, 7 to 9K range. So you use your ear. That's really important. But also there's a male and female switch. So that's obviously going to move the de-essing up. Okay. So if it is focused around 48 to 6K and, 8 to 9K, then the female is going to go, okay, we're going to move it up to 55 to 75K and the high band will be higher. That makes sense? I hope so. All right. So let's start to, you got the vocal bus. Now it's going to go to stereo bus. Let's start to use these de-essing capabilities here. And this will be the third de-esser. Oh my God, you're de-essing with 3 de-essers. You're crazy, dude. Oh, it's way too processed. No, this is the way you make things sound not so processed. Things sound more processed when you use one processor to do all the lifting, okay? Get that through, you'll make way better mixes.
But I'm the only one to stay. But I'm the only one to stay. But I'm the only one to stay.
See, now we can just take even just a little bit more. We go a dB or 2. I think this is like lights up at 1 dB right here, right? So we're hitting like 1 dB, 1 to 2 dB of de-essing extra. And as you do more processing, more compressors, you're running through more tubes, right? Tubes, zeros and ones basically that are emulating tubes. Or you have outboard gear, right? And you're running through an 1176 and driving a fatso or a distressor or something that's going to bring out harmonics and frequencies. Then you want to be able to de-ess after that, right? Because you need to smooth it back out. And that's really the name of the game with de-essing. Now you made it this far, so I'm going to give you some recommendations on some other de-essers that I really love. Obviously the Waves de-esser, but there's also the Renaissance de-esser, which is the RDS in the Waves bundle. I love that one, and I'll show you this one real quick. If you go to Waves, it's the R de-esser. Let's go R. And this one actually is really cool because it has that split band idea as well. So you have this and you have the split band, so you can actually see exactly what that is. So split and wideband. So split is saying like very focused on a frequency. Wideband is saying, hey, look at all the bands, but we're going to focus right here on this frequency, right? So, you can find that really easily. You have a listen sidechain where you're just listening to the de-essing, etc. Love this de-esser. And another one I really recommend is the Fab Filter de-esser. I think that is becoming an industry standard. And a lot of producers and engineers, mixing engineers, are using Fab Filter stuff like crazy because it's really clean. And a lot of the times I think it's very transparent. So I'd love to hear your guys's, drop a comment here. Let me know, like, what de-essers do you love? What do you use the most with de-essing? And have you ever used more than 1, 2, 3 de-essers on a vocal track? Because that's the name of the game. Use more de-essers, do less with more, right? So basically, if I go 2 dB here, 2 dB here, a dB there, it's going to sound much more musical. It's going to sound much more transparent than me taking 1 de-esser and trying to do 8 dB of de-essing on that 1 de-esser. Okay, so hopefully you love this. And also, I got a little freebie in the description. You can grab a bunch of channel strips right here that I've created. Just click that link. You can grab 5 channel strips for free that I've made for vocals and instruments. And hopefully you enjoy it. And hopefully you enjoyed this mix series. Go out and de-ess your records. Make them sound good. Make people happy with your music. Take care.